Hello and good day, lovely students. Welcome back to the Secret Classroom here on the FreeMelon Society. I am Eli Martyr. Today we are going to be talking about disease. We are going to be understanding the building blocks, the rudiments of disease, why you get diseases, why you get sick, and we want to understand this subject. Now, health and wellness is not a war, okay? It's not like fighting against an enemy. But if you wanted to conceive of health and wellness like a war, then the tried, tested, and true advice that you would give to any war strategist would be to know thy enemy. So what we're going to do today is we are going to know the enemy. I want to show you how to get sick. And if you can understand exactly what you would need to do to get sick, then you know exactly what not to do in order to avoid getting sick. So this is not a war, it's not a battle. But sometimes we like to think of it like that, so if that helps, then great. Alright, let's get going here. Make yourself comfortable, grab a salad, grab some tea, grab some fruit if you're after my own heart, and let's start understanding disease. Okay, imagine you had a windmill, alright? And this windmill is sitting in the middle of a pasture. The windmill is powered by wind, by the ineffable god of wind. However this wind force is controlled, we don't know, but that's what powers the windmill. And what the windmill is doing is it's powering a water filtration system. Okay, so the windmill takes the energy from the wind and it spins, and somehow it is purifying water. That's the operation that the windmill is engaged in. Okay? Now, of course, and this is the wrong way to go about it, but spoiler alert, this is an analogy for how the body works, okay? You probably guessed that that's what I'm going after, but yeah, so I just ruined it. But anyway, so you've got this windmill. Now, the two main ways that you could sabotage the cleanliness of the water that the windmill is producing, okay? You could attack the windmill physically. So you could subject the windmill itself to some sort of trauma. You could fire a rocket at the windmill and just literally blow it up. That would end things quite swiftly. You could be a jerk and you could constantly throw rocks and dedicate your life to throwing rocks constantly at the windmill and at the big arms and whatnot, and you could cause damage over time just chipping away at it. You could sabotage the windmill in other ways. You could literally poison it. You could go into the water filtration system and you could start pouring all sorts of chemicals in the water and overloading the filters. If the mechanism controlling the speed of the arms were tampered with, and again, some goblin or whatnot went in there and maybe cranked up a dial and made the arms go really, 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 really fast, it might wear out the windmill faster than it would have been if it had just been left to its regular natural speed, right? You could do that. You could lubricate the spinning arms of the mill with the wrong type of oil, some sort of oil that's not supposed to be used for that mill. You could do that, lubricate it with the wrong type of oil. You could add weird foaming agents to the water supply that's to be filtered. You could add chemicals that actually erode the filter linings themselves, or however the filter works. Right? There's a whole number of ways that you could poison or toxify or compromise the integrity of the mill by doing something to it, putting something into it, okay, or just straight trauma, right? Just hitting it or crushing it with a tractor, all that kind of stuff, okay? So all of these things would compromise the windmill's ability to produce clean water, all right? Now, the other way that you could compromise the functioning of the windmill is if the wind itself, there was a change in the power of the wind itself, and the wind stopped blowing with the same gusto, with the same power. So if the wind lost 80% of its power, the windmill would be underpowered, okay? And so that would compromise the ability of the windmill to generate clean water. Let's say there's a cataclysmic event in the solar system and the wind force goes haywire for a little while, but then on the other end there's a lull in the wind force. Right now the windmill would be underpowered for a while until the wind reconstitutes. Okay, anyway, so there's this vital force or wind, or this wind force, this kind of unknown force powering the windmill. And if that is compromised, the windmill suffers. And you can also do things to the windmill itself. And that would impair the functioning of the windmill. So you've got these two things, these two ways to compromise the integrity of the windmill. Or the windmill's ability to generate clean water. Your body, your human body, is powered by a vital force that is completely inexplicable, that is ineffable. Nobody understands really how it works. No one understands the force that powers everything. No one knows whence these instructions come from to create life, to create cellular activity, blah, 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 all that stuff. Okay. So this vital power, it is translated, okay, from the ether by your energy bodies, and it is translated into electrical energy, into electrical power. So you are an electrical unit. You are an electrical being. So that vital force, again, is decoded, all right? Decoded by your energy body into electrical signals that power every single function of your body. Right? So your nervous system interfaces with absolutely everything. And if that nervous system does not work properly, then it literally is like a power plant that just gets the power shut off. It's just, right? There's nothing to power you, and you go to sleep. Now, your ability to detoxify the regular metabolic byproducts of life, the regular free radical creation of life associated with life and cellular metabolism and all this kind of stuff. Your ability to do that requires vital force, requires a certain percentage of your vital reserves for that day. And when you have a sufficient amount of vital force to be able to perform all of the detoxifying operations of life without causing an excess burden on the body so that it gets overloaded with toxins and poisons, right? If those two things are balanced, then you are in homeostasis, then you are maintained, then sickness does not occur. Then malfunction then does not occur. So I guess this is the first thing that we're looking at, the first little principle that we're looking at, is we want to keep our vital force at a sufficiently high level so that it can always deal with the amount of requisite elimination, okay, that makes up your day-to-day living. So if you run out of power, then your eliminative organs, your eliminative ability, that will go unchecked, and the waste products of life start to accumulate. And when that happens, let's just make it easy, it's no good. Okay, so we've got these two elements, right, when it comes to understanding disease. Now, we just mentioned that if your vital force depletes, then you will not be able to keep up with the amount of elimination of waste products of life, and that will result in disease, okay? Now, on the other hand, okay, let's assume that your vital force was maintained, but you subjected the body to an incredible burden of toxins and things that need to be eliminated from the body, foreign materials that just get loaded up in the body, that can also cause disease. That can also be a cause of disease, even assuming that your vital force is maintained, because the more toxins and the more poisons that have to get eliminated, well, the more tax on your vital force, right? So you can influence your vital reserve, your vital energy, by the amount of sheer bulk poisons that you subject the body to, okay? So it can work either way. Now, so we've got these two elements. So hopefully you're following with me. This shouldn't be very hard to understand. What are the ways that you can drain or tax your vital force? Okay, so now that we know how disease comes about, and I'll just say it again. Disease is the accumulation of waste products that are not efficiently eliminated by the body. And the symptoms of disease are the body's attempts to expel, to purge, to get rid of the poisons from the body. And the whole spectrum of what we call non-communicable diseases, right? This is how that works. Now, we need to understand, well, what are the things that tax your vital force? There are many things that tax your vital force. In fact, all life functions that you engage in tax your vital force. Some are more taxing than others, though. So let's get into the main ones. The main ways that you can tax your vital force. Excess eating. Too much nutrition is an intense tax on your vital force. Stress. Stress is an intense tax on your vital force. I should have said this one first. Lack of sleep. All right. That's probably the most important one. If you don't get enough sleep, if you stay awake for the next several nights in the row, they do this in military training to toughen up, to toughen up the soldiers, mentally, but not physically, because that would be impossible. You don't sleep for a sufficient number of nights in a row, you're dead. I don't care how many apples and salads you eat, you're dead, right? So, sleep. You must reconstitute your energy with sleep, stress, and overeating, overconsumption, overnutrition, too much nutrition. Exercise. Exercise is a tax on your vital economy. And too much exercise can be deadly, can be far more damaging than people make it out to be. Those four are probably some of the more powerful taxes on your vital economy. Now, there are others. There are more ways that you can deplete your resources. And some of those things we don't really pay attention to as much. Showers. Hot showers. A hot shower is a tax on your vital economy. Cold exposure. Cold exposure is a tax on the vital economy. Now again, remember that a lot of these processes are processes of life. So it's not that they are bad. It's just what we're doing is we're understanding what taxes you so that you know where to place yourself in a frame of reference, right? So you understand the things that you are doing that are taxing. Electromagnetic chaos, being around a cell phone too much, carrying a cell phone in your pocket, near your head too much, wearing those wireless earbuds, right? Everything's wireless. All these pieces of body technology, they all want to make them wireless. Why? Because it kills you. I'm being dramatic, but get rid of those things. They hurt you. These are not good to have near your body. Okay, so those are some of the ways that you can drain your main power source. Now, on the other side, the other element, the toxin load. Okay, I'll call it toxin load. The toxin load that you can subject your body to. There's a whole number of ways that you can introduce toxins into the body, making the process of elimination more difficult. More things are toxic to the body than people recognize, than people understand. Many of the things that we're taught are healthy are actually not healthy, right? And of course, this is one of the major things that I focus on in this channel is to clue you into the fact that most of the things that we're taught are healthy, especially in terms of diet, are in fact not the greatest for us. Okay. Processed foods of any kind, like processed grains and wheats and all sorts of stuff. Processed drinks, concentrated oils, concentrated foods of any kind. Any food that is a hijack to your system. So any processed concentrated food is a tax to your system, is going to hijack your system into a state of excitation that is damaging and that you should eschew if you want to avoid the stresses of life. Outrageous combinations of enzymatically incompatible foods. This is another way that you can really hurt yourself. Pharmaceutical, anything. There's no exceptions here. Anything pharmaceutical related that you put into your body is insanely poisonous. Insanely poisonous. So pharmaceutical, anything, over-the-counter, anything, epidermal tissue breaching mechanisms. This is the realm of nonsense. Okay. However, there is one exception here when it comes to emergency surgery, emergency life-saving, emergency situations where sometimes you need to stimulate the heck out of the body in order to recover properly. Emergency trauma, crush injuries, broken bones, where okay. This is all legitimate use of that industry. But what I'm talking about is in the regular daily routine of life. I'm talking about regular health maintenance when there's not a pressing emergency, right? If a porcupine just flies through my door and gets jammed into my jugular, there might be some unnatural means that the doctors would want to employ in order to safely get the porcupine. That's such a weird example. But you guys get the idea. Okay. So if we had to put this into like a little visual formula for you, we could say that your vital tax, in addition to your toxic load, are directly proportional to the disease risk. So your vital force, the vital tax and the toxin load, the two elements that you have to worry about, those two, the addition of those two equals your disease risk. So if you have very little vital taxes and very little toxin load, your disease risk will be very little. That's really all there is to it. It's vital force, maintaining enough vital force and not poisoning yourself and minimizing the amount of poisonous load, toxic load that your body's subjected to. You do those two things, you don't get sick. Now, the reason I want to go into this is because I want to address the people who have the experiences out there where the disease symptoms seem to come out of nowhere. You are just smitten by the random fever, the random flu, and to you it doesn't make sense as to why you've been afflicted with those things. Now, of course, there's a reason why you've been afflicted with those things, or that condition, or that detox symptom. There's a reason. But sometimes because the amount of tax on our vital economy runs in the background that we don't recognize, we don't realize when we're so run down that our poisonous load, whether it's from the outside world or whether it's internal poisons that are generated from life, stress, worry, sickness, bad air quality, all sorts of stuff, electromagnetic chaos, all these things that you don't recognize are taxing you. And then at some point down the road, couple days into that routine, you get sick. And to you, it doesn't make sense. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get you to understand the enemy, know the enemy, so that when you recognize that you are doing lots of things that are taxes on your vital economy, know that you need to do things to make up for that. Here's an easy example. You have a very good workout during the day, but in the evening, you're also supposed to go out drinking with some friends. Understanding that you might be going to bed late that night, and that you've already had a sufficient tax on your vital economy from working out, it would be good of you to recognize and to know ahead of time that this tax will leave you vulnerable to having a depletion of vital force that will make elimination of toxins and poisons more difficult. So one thing you could do in that situation is to either skip dinner, right? Don't eat a big dinner, or have a very, very minimal dinner. Right? When you go out drinking with your friends, instead of drinking, you could just pull one of these. Oh, yeah, and not drink. That would help. But let's just say you do drink a bit. Make sure that when you go home, your sleeping arrangements are conducive to the best quality sleep. Put your cell phone in another room. Put your laptop in another room. Let them charge in another room. Turn your Wi-Fi router off for the evening. Make sure there are no noises. Don't have night lights. Don't listen to audiobooks or anything while you're trying to sleep. Just like complete good sleep. And maybe the next day, delay breakfast for a good several hours. And of course, you're doing this because you know that you've taxed yourself the day before, and you want to make sure that you're in the best position to regain some of that vital force without doing other things that really drain you. Okay? Let's say you just found out that one of your best friends has passed away, or a family member has passed away. Okay? You find out that family member has passed away. You are stricken with grief. You are stricken with worry. And at some point during that very day, you try to eat a meal. You can try, but it won't happen. You try to digest a meal when you're stricken with grief. Let me tell you, that meal, nothing will happen to that meal. It will sit in your system and it will rot. Because grief and worry and stress is an incredible tax on your system. So if you try to eat when you are not emotionally poised, it will not do well. This might result in illness or sickness a couple days down the road, the day after, whatever it is, right? Extreme stress and extreme worry and extreme grief are things that you must notice about yourself, because eating in the context of these things will cause a depletion of vital force. Now let's take the other side of the equation in terms of toxic load. Let's just say, for example, that you had an unlimited supply of outrageous vital force. Nothing taxed you, okay? You were literally like whoosh, plugged into the outlet of God, holding God's hand and just unlimited vital force. My imagination's getting away with me. Okay. So let's say you had that unlimited vital force, but you subjected yourself to a boatload, just an untenable deluge of toxins throughout the day. But you had unlimited vital force, like maximum vital force. It could be that you would balance that out and be able to deal with all of these toxins and poisons and not get sick if you had unlimited vital force. But you're not God, so that won't happen. But let's say you could. Understanding this formula now, understanding how this works, you could see that that might work. Let's take the opposite and say we have absolutely no toxin load at all. You live in a bubble with your eyes closed in a perpetual, habitual lotus position. in a perpetual lotus position. You are insulated from absolutely every stress. You get negative 10% exercise. You get no exercise at all. You just deep breathe and that's it, right? No toxin exposure whatsoever. But at the same time, you had a very, for some reason, very little vital force. Like just a trickle of vital force, enough to keep you alive, essentially. But at the same time, you had no toxic exposure. You might not get sick, even though you have very little vital force, right? Because there's no toxins that need to be, no excess burden of toxins that need to be eliminated. And the very minimal amount that does need to get eliminated, it's taken care of by the little trickle of vital force. So you see how that works, right? So in your mind, you can, when you go through your daily life, day by day, what will help you avoid sickness is to recognize when you are depleting yourself and when you are poisoning yourself. So let's say, you're a regular person. If one day you have a cheat meal, a splurge meal, you have some fun, you go out and you have whatever, restaurant food and a whole bunch of it. You go to the buffet with the family or whatnot. You have a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, great, right? Have fun with that. Recognize that it was a tax on your vital economy and make amends, make slight alterations and disciplined changes in your lifestyle for the next little while so that you have enough vital force to continue the daily habits of life without running into excess burden or excess depletion, right? You see what I mean? So you don't go back out to the buffet the next night, even if you have cravings for it. You don't do that because you know that you've taxed yourself and you need to recover, right? So getting good sleep that night, making sure that you're well hydrated, that day or the next day, or especially prior to all these little things, right? Don't exercise, right? Don't exercise intensely that day. Maybe just do some stretching or whatnot. And don't exercise heavily the next day either, because you want to digest it. Okay. You see how this works. So it's a play. It's a drama between elimination and toxin poison load and the vital force and things that tax your vital economy. Okay. So that in a nutshell is how disease works, okay? You can use that as a guide to get sick whenever you want. If you really are hell-bent on getting sick, all you have to do is either load yourself with poisons or deplete the hell out of yourself, or both. And if you do both, you'll probably die, right? It's you can go to the extreme or you can plot yourself somewhere in the middle, right? But that is a formula. That's a guide to how sickness works. And if you are always in a state of maintenance, if you are always in a state where vital force is at a good level to be able to deal with all the stresses of life, then you never get sick. Your body never needs to go into emergency detox mode. And you will be insulated from the problems of the world in terms of your health and wellness. Okay? That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that helped you. And in the next part of this tiny little series, I think it'll only be 2 parts, but we'll see how things go. Then in the next part, we're going to get into the disease progression. So what happens when elimination is unchecked? There is a very predictable pattern of things that go wrong. Well, not go wrong. They go right. It's exactly what needs to happen. But the pattern that we can recognize that happens in the body when either toxins are too much or vital economy is depleted too low, which results in the same thing. Right? So if you deplete your vital economy, And then what happens is elimination builds up because there's not enough vital force to deal with that stuff. Or there's just too much toxin load, in which case it overwhelms your vital economy, and then the end result is the same, is toxin overload, which results in your body trying to expel those things, which on the surface we call disease. So that will be in the next part. But anyway, I hope this helped you guys. Thank you so much for sitting into the secret classroom with me here on the FreeMelon Society. Subscribe to this video if you like videos like this, and make sure to give me a thumbs up. And we'll catch you on the next part. Okay? Love you very much. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for all the support that you've given me over the years, or if you're new to the channel, just recently. But big hugs, much love, mwah, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.